Hello. Hello. Oh, you can really see the purple on my eyes. Pop. All right. Let's go. Can you see that I'm wearing rainbow? My boobs are low in this call today. My boobs are low. That's all right. I added more pink and purple to my hair, so we've got all the colors. Boobs are low. Let's go. All right. Let me pull my notes up. It went all the way to the bottom of the page, which, as we all know, is one of the ruder things notes can do. I think the rudest thing notes can do is disappear, though, and didn't do that, so we're good to go. Welcome to the final coaching call and the final call, including lessons and all of that in general, for the Happy 2024 Challenge. Today we're going to talk about ways you can increase your experience in a more tangible way. These are the things that everybody always wants to know from me the most. My ideas for making things fun. All right, so we're going to talk about things like ambiance and decor and accessories. And I've got a couple tips for you from today's worksheet questions, and I will also answer any questions you have and go over your submissions from your comments. And then I have a special announcement. So, all right. So let's look at the questions first that I asked from today's worksheets and stuff. The questions were, here, I'll put them in the chat. A, how can you remind yourself to participate in your happy goals every day? And what would be a fun way to put your goals at the quote top of page every day, which was just like reminding yourself. Oh, we have a Mitzi. We have a Mitzi. She's been a little rambunctious today. She got into some paper chains. It's been a very paper eating kind of day. But we've had a busy week, haven't we? And we even have a Giuseppe walking by, which is very rare. You'll never really see him, but the fact that he walked near us is a blessing. We all know that is a blessing. So thank you for your appearance, Mitzi and Giuseppe. We have been blessed with the cats on this Capricorn new moon. Thank you. Thank you, cats. Okay. B, how do you imagine having a weekly check-in for your happy goals? And C, what ideas do you have for gamifying your happy goals? What are some... No chasing. Oh, what did she do to you? No. He's very grumpy. Always. So I wanted to see what ideas you already had out the gate for gamifying your goals and some ideas that you can keep in your Merriment trunk, both literal and theoretical, for when your happy goal feels a little bit stale or you're not feeling very motivated. So a couple of people already answered, and we're gonna look at those, and then as we are going through, you can add more to your notes, more to your worksheet, more to your repertoire and ideas, and let's keep going, and I'll comment through on your ideas as well. So Candace said, I'll remind myself to practice each day by setting an alarm. Perfectly, absolutely good, works very well. And 2, I'm going to add my practice to my weekly to-do list that I have to check off every Sunday. Great. And I would ask if that's something that's already in practice or if that's something that you're adding. And if that's not something that is already in practice, then remember that stacking stuff to habits is the best way to, implement something new for the most part, for most of us. With our, chaotic schedules, our hectic minds, our magpie selves. So if there's something that you, and this is for anybody, so if you're starting to do something, a weekly check-in every Sunday or Saturday or Monday or whatever it is, if you aren't used to doing that, then see if there's something that you already do once a week. Is it pick out your outfit or take the trash out? Or something that already happens like that, and then try to pair it with that. Candace is saying, I already have something like that, and that's wonderful. And if you don't, and you're listening to the replay, or it just doesn't apply to you, then try to pair it with something else. So adding your weekly check-in with that is going to be great. And already having a weekly to-do list is already a wonderful practice. And then making sure that that is something that gets done is, there's one thing to say it and there's another thing to do it. So just making sure that we feel excited about that process as well. So you can also think about these planning sessions and like these situations of getting ready for something, right? Like these situations of getting ready for something, these situations of reflecting, the sitting down for the weekly, monthly, or biannual check-ins, if those start to feel daunting or scary or repetitive or stale, everything that I'm sharing with you overall throughout this course, this challenge, and also tonight specifically, can be ways that you don't just apply to your happy goal, but to your check-in, right? So you can start to amp yourself up in terms of gamifying that. You can add ambiance and decor and clothing and things like that to that practice as well. So if you're somebody that, really likes the planning aspect and that doesn't ever feel stale for you, I mean, I love sitting down with a new notebook or an existing notebook and seeing that fill up. So that might not be the place that feels sticky for me or resistant, but if that is a place for you that feels resistant, then that can be something that you add the fun to. Okay, and then Candace's other part was to gamify the practice. I'm inventing a cheer that I'll perform before each practice. Okay, I love that. That's amazing. I love the idea of doing a cheer. Like, I wasn't allowed to do more than dance in school because you had to pick like an after school curricular because everything was going on at the same time. But I would have loved to do cheerleading and poms and theater. There were so many different things that were interesting to me, but I always loved like watching I didn't really like all the jumps and stuff, but I loved the actual cheerleading part, which makes sense for my personality, right? I mean, I feel like coaching and cheering are very similar in terms of, motivation. And I loved learning like the different things that they would do and just like the actual language and stuff and things that would rhyme and be really silly and stuff. So I mean, I know that a cheer doesn't have to be like literal cheerleading, but there could be some really interesting inspiration in that. And I think that's a really, really, really fun gamification tip that Candace just gave us for cheerleading. And funny enough, I actually put in my notes for later. One of the things for the Merriment trunk for somebody was pom-poms, and now I'm realizing that that could just be something that is like an extra enhance button for everybody. So I just love that. I love a cheer. It kind of takes positive affirmation to another level. It reminds me of Sark. I can just see Sark just like really doing a very wholehearted cheer on her own and just so sincere. And I just really, really, really love that. So thank you for coming up with that idea and sharing it with us. And I think we can all add that to our Merriment repertoire. Okay, so the next one was about overestimating for our practice, for our happy practice. And you said that you're going to do some dance steps while walking. I love that. So that's also about like strength and determination and actually building up your stamina and energy. So while taking a walk, you can incorporate dance steps. That's brilliant. And I love the way that we're thinking now, and just asking these questions can get us into these like, how am I going to do that? And I think that these questions and these phases of this researching phase and this planning phase is so helpful for us to get our brains thinking. And they can also be really activating in other areas of our life. Like, well, if I can overestimate for my happiness here, like what is another way that I can do that in, cooking or crafting or gardening or, emotional capacity with my kids or anything, right? So if, we expect to be able to lift for 2 pounds and it turns out that we can't because of the variables in our life, but we're actually lifting for 30 and then we only have to lift for 2, then we're prepared, right? Like I said yesterday. So if you can do the same practice for any other thing in your life, and you're ready for those variables, and then you start to think of like, well, how did I logistically tangibly apply this? Well, I overestimated for my practice by adding some dancing steps while walking, and it's like, well, it's not that hard for me to conceptualize the reality of this anymore, right? So because before maybe it was like this like lofty kind of idea of like, what does that even mean? But now you have an example that you came up with, and now you can control all this to other situations. And that's why we do these things. Remember how I said it's like we don't meditate so that we can like become still with our thoughts. It's so that we can like have more zen in moments that are really stressful. So all of that. Beautiful, beautiful work, Candace. Okay, April's examples for her questions answers, example question answers, were to remind herself of her goals by writing them down on her to-do list every day in the bullet journal. Okay, another really good example of literally having them top of page, because that's a bullet journal practice that she's already experimenting with. For a weekly check-in every Sunday afternoon, everybody's feeling Sundays, okay? And evaluating how things are going and adjusting for any variables that need adjusting. Also a really good tip just to like check in with ourselves, and I think that's implied, but I like very specifically stating it as an intention. As for gamifying the goal, I think I'll tape a few page options for my Wreck This Journal on a die and do what it says. Oh, that's cute. Okay, so one of April's goals was to complete the Wreck This Journal. So the idea of like looking at them in advance and writing them out on a dice, and then rolling the die, and then whatever the dice says, that's what they'll do. That's a really wonderful idea. I love that. Okay, so here are some extra ideas and tips for this in general. I think it's pretty common for us all, not us all, but if you have access to a smartphone or even a like a robot lady in your home, it's just becoming more and more common for when I see people's homes in Western society to have access to one of those like Google Homes or Alexas or a Siri, or even Android has like some version of like the Google Assistant, right? All of these like robots that are at our disposal. Even computers have these things. So my point is, another creative way to remind yourself to participate in your happy goal is to use them to your advantage, and to set up whatever robot you have in your house, Alexa, Siri, Google, whatever those are, to remind you every day or every week that it's time to start your happy goal, or to sit down and start planning, or to start gathering your supplies, or whatever it is. You can also set it out in the future to remind you that it's time for your monthly check-in or your biannual check-in. You can do those things tonight. And if you've gotten off the track, it'll be like, no, it's time to check in. And I also want to remind you that it's all right if you get off the track. We all get off the track sometime. Like, this is not about like hard 70 or whatever that is, or a 365 project where there's no missing the day, or pushing through everything when everything feels hard. Like, there is absolutely, like I said, something to be said for consistency and showing up to a space even when it does feel hard, but it's also not about phoning it in and just doing something just to say that you've done it. There's a nuance and a space in between, and everyone falls off of a ritual and routine, and it's not about the fact that you fall off, it's about the willingness and the ability to get back onto it, not because you feel like you have to, but because you actually want to. So I think setting up those reminders of weekly, monthly, and biannually will be really helpful for you to be like, okay, it has been 5 days since I've done anything on this, and that doesn't mean that I'm bad or wrong or lazy or whatever. It just means that that's what happened. And life got weird for whatever reason, and that's how life is, and so am I, and now I'm going to keep moving on. So I just want to remind you that that is what's going to happen, not as a self-fulfilling prophecy, but because you know that that is how life is. Okay, so be gentle with yourself, be compassionate, don't push beyond what you physically can do, and sometimes it is better to just show up and just hold your pencil on the piece of paper and just be like, I'm coming here. I'm here. This is it. Like, I'm in the space and I know that I don't really have any more energy than just being here, and that's okay. Sometimes just putting your shoes on and going out the door to stand on the walk and being able to walk 3 feet is better than not doing it at all, because you are keeping that promise and consistency. But like I said, especially with something that's an emotional, personal development kind of thing, phoning it in is not really not really helpful. Okay, but that's why the weekly check-in is really good. Um, Another idea for having a weekly check-in with your goals is to have kind of like some pre-written questions that you can come back to, so you don't feel pressured to have some sort of standard of like, what do I do here? You know, it's just like some sort of format of, these are the questions that I want to ask myself. This is how I want to check in. This is the template that I'm using. And as we also go through the ideas today, you can utilize those as ideas for the kinds of prompts that you're going to want to check in with. So when I go through things like ambiance and clothing and playlists and things, you can use those as ways to like, these are the things that I want to prep with. These are the things I want to ask myself how they went. These are those kinds of things. And those are questions that you can kind of ask, and also ways that you can plan in the future. And you don't have to also plan just 1 week in advance. I think once I started getting my stuff on, for my business planned 2 weeks in advance, I started feeling so much less anxiety, because I didn't feel like I was doing things where the rope was burning underneath of me. So if I felt like I had like, because then, if I'm doing like an unusual holiday or something, I feel like I have time and something that I can do something of quality for. So I think 2 weeks in advance is at least is where it's at, but that's also for a business. So I don't know. I don't know. Everything's different for everybody. Okay, so let's now look at how you can increase your experience in a more tangible way. So the first thing I'm going to look at is ambiance. So what is the setting of where you're going to be practicing your happy goal? And remember that you probably have more than one. You might have like the recurring happy goal, you might have the long-term happy goal. So we can also, like I said, look at this in terms of where you're planning everything, right? So where you're sitting down to do your calendar work, your planning, your journaling, that can be a place that you're thinking about setting. Where you're doing your dancing, where you're having your dance party, where you're doing your strengthening exercises, where you're doing your art journaling, all of those things. Those are the places that I'm thinking about where your setting is. And how can you make this a more physically exciting place to come to, a place that feels desirable? So the same way that I was thinking about, that I was talking about having stickers on the page of your journal that are like kind of creating a physically pretty space, so that when I turn the page, I'm like, oh, I feel more inclined to write on my gratitude journal because it's already like pre-decorated. That's how I feel about ambiance. It's like, okay, it's already here, and now I feel more inclined to participate in whatever it is that I want to do here. So, I mean, the physicality of a place absolutely has something to do with the way that we feel about it. It's scientifically backed. And I mean, there's a reason that like certain environments are allowed to charge more, right? Like a different hotel looks a different way than another place, and that ambiance allows us to feel a different way. It's too much to get into in this small amount of time, but just trust me when I say that ambiance absolutely matters. The physicality of a place absolutely matters. So what I want you to look at is lighting, mirrors, textures, and smells in terms of this. So lighting could be like LED lighting. There's so many options now. It's kind of out of control. Just, I mean, even if you don't utilize Amazon, if you look on Amazon for LED lighting, your mind will be blown in terms of how many different things there are in terms of just strip lighting or stands or structures, or I mean, it's plugins. It's absolutely wild what's available now. Indoor and outdoor. And there's neon lights, there's strobes, there's party light bulbs that you can replace the actual bulbs that you have in your regular lamps. There's twinkle lights. There's so many things that are not overhead or regular lighting that will change the energy of the room. Even just changing the color light bulb absolutely changes everything. And you want to think about like the theme of what you're doing too. Like, is this something that you want clean light for? Clean, like white, yellow light for or whatever? Or do you want natural light? Do you want a party atmosphere? Do you want orange light? I don't know. Like, what is it that you are thinking of? It's kind of like you're turning a mood board into your ambiance. Um, and another thing that I want to mention with lighting is that I love utilizing timers for lighting. So whether that's like using those candles that take batteries, and um, there's an on button and there's also a timer. So just for the ambiance of my home, I time them on a 24-hour timer so that when I'm getting off of work, they all turn on. And I know that it's like like the neon light duck in my office turns off and the cute little candles turn on in my living room. And there are also little plugs that you can get. There's different kinds on online that you can plug into any additional plug. So whether that be a neon light, a a salt lamp, a regular lamp, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't even need to be a lamp, really. It could be a toaster. But you plug that into the wall, and then you plug your plug into that, and you can set it on a timer. So every day it turns on and off when you want it to. So the same way that my candles are turning on when I want to for it to feel like it's chill time, you can do that for your happy goal. So I believe, to my knowledge, that's a daily thing. I don't know how that would work for a weekly thing. Maybe there's a more technical situation. I'm just not aware of it. There probably is. I'm sure a programmer could figure that out. I know people that can do like some crazy stuff with like Raspberry devices and stuff. I don't know why they're called raspberries. Anyway, but yeah, like especially for something that you're doing daily, wouldn't it be cool to have like a black lights? It's another kind of light that I didn't mention, like a neon light or something that's like your exercise room, and that turns on, you're like, okay, it's time to go. And then Alexa's like, it's time for your workout, or she's speaking in an Australian accent because that's what you programmed her to, and you're like, all right, let's go. And then she also starts playing your workout playlist, and it just like it's like a vibe, like it's like a pre-vibe that just starts going. You can do all that. Isn't that an amazing thing that we live in a time that like that's all available to us? We just have to, it's like a set and forget thing. And then you'd have to like commit to saying, I don't want this to happen anymore. And that's kind of like submitting to the fact that you don't want to do that goal anymore. And that's a decision. Not in a shameful way, but like you would need to decide why you're not doing that anymore, right? So just something to think about. Okay, textures. There's a million textures. I love textures so much. I was thinking about like fabrics. It depends really on what your goal is for how this is working, but I mean, this can go into what we're going to talk about in terms of like altars and vignettes. It can also go into your clothing and decorations, but just think about textures because we're motivated by them and inspired by them more than we think about on a regular basis. So faux fur, sequins, tassels, fringe, velvet, satin, cashmere, tinsel, foil, mylar, like whatever gets you going, right? It doesn't really matter what it is. It doesn't have to be a fabric for clothing. It can be, I don't know, fringe. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be plastic. It's just like whatever you like to look at. And then smells, candles, incense, perfume, oils, anything. Just it's about adding that to the mix and creating a ritual the same way that it's like, okay, the light goes on, Alexa talks, I spray my room spray, or I put it on myself, and it's like these all also start to be like Pavlovian indicators that are positive associations with achievement and accomplishment and positive reinforcement for your positive psychology, your mission, and cognitive reinforcement for like you continuing to accomplish your goal. So, for example, like if you are if you're dancing, you could use glow sticks, right? Like that's a light and ambiance. You could turn in a party light bulb before you have the dance party with your grandkids. If you're doing an exercise workout, you could decorate a full length mirror so that you could see yourself practice. There's also like really fun combinations that you can do in terms of like shopping, going to the thrift store and having DIY like parties that you can mix up with all of these things too. Okay, next let's talk about clothing. So, is there a special outfit that you can add to your routine? And it doesn't have to be like a full situation. It can be a hat or a piece of jewelry or a cape or a jacket or shoes or whatever. But the idea is like just putting on a tutu before you start dancing, or having a special ring that you wear before you begin writing, or ironing a patch to your jacket that says wreck this journal and you wear it every time you work, you know? You can also, dedicate specific outfits to working out or like it doesn't matter. It's just about kind of isolating specific items, clothing, and accessories that you can wear that feel like you're adorning yourself for this particular happy thing that you're doing. Okay, the next thing is music. I'm a huge advocate for themed playlists. I recently tried to go back to Spotify free, and I had no idea how painful that situation is. So when I'm recommending people utilize Spotify that's not the paid version, I had no idea what y'all were dealing with. Um, but I do think that Spotify is still a very good option in terms of creating playlists. Obviously, the free version is significantly better, but it's still an option to create playlists. However, whatever it is that you utilize for making playlists, I think that having a theme for different things is something that is so helpful to just set and, like I said, forget. All of these things are about like putting the work in on the front end so that you see success on the back end. It's about setting up a pretty website so that people come and see that your business and they're like, okay, that's a business. I'm gonna, participate in buying their product, or creating like an automated system so that like when someone buys a thing, then it actually goes to shipping or something, right? Like it's about doing the work so that something can be done, or prepping meals, right? Like you prep the meal and then you get to eat it. It seems like it's a lot of work, but it works out, right? So themed playlists are like that too, where you create a vibe for yourself and you have multiple options. So like for working out, I would suggest having a couple of them, or one that's like the best for you. Now, I feel like there should be different themes for all of us. For everyone that's doing this should have multiple playlists. So there should be one that you listen to that's like, I'm getting amped up, right? Like the thing that's happening before you are, before Alexa tells you that it's time, so that you're like building your inertia and you're not just sitting around being like, I don't wanna, I'm just really cozy on this blanket, right? There's one that's kind of like, it's a build. It's getting you excited for the day. It's getting you amped up. Maybe it's just like affirmations. I love this girl. What is her name? Zia? Shit. Zia? Z? Yeah, Zii. I like her. She does these affirmations that I really like, and she's just got a lot of energy. She's a little bit religious, and sometimes I'll skip those, but regardless, I just love the energy. And a lot of hers are for like, some of them are for business too. So there's a couple in there, regardless that it's like self-confidence and fun, but it's just finding stuff like that. I'm like, okay, that's, what is the point of this? That building yourself up, building the energy, the inertia. So that's one idea for getting excited about your happy goal playlist. One that you listen to while you are participating in whatever your goal is. So one that you're doing while you're art journaling, one that you're doing while you're working out, one that you're doing while you're dancing. whatever. And then one that you have while you're that you listen to while you're kind of coming down from the experience, because you're gonna either be processing emotions or cleaning something up, right? So we don't want to just like go cold turkey and hard stop. We want to have something that we're able to do while we're processing, while we're putting all of our stuff away. It doesn't need to be long, right? But we also want options on there, because like what happens a lot of the time, like I remember in dance when we would warm up, we would use jock jams to warm up to, and no one would ever just press shuffle. We would always listen to the first track, and we would listen to the exact same amount of songs every time, because that's how long it took to stretch. So I don't know what the last four songs of that Jock Jams CD were, because like no one ever thought to just start it at song 8. We always were just like, pump up the jam, pump, like that's just how we started with, like we either started here or with our heads. So it's like I have like hardcore muscle memory with the beginning of 2 different Jock Jam CDs for 4 years of my life, and I wanted so badly to get control of that Jock Jam CD. So what I'm saying is that when you start with a playlist, either you shuffle or give yourself some variety, more than 4 songs, because you're going to get sick of it if you use the same one. So have something that you're coming down with while you're processing or cleaning your stuff up. And then another one to do while you're listening, doing your weekly planning, you're reflecting, you're checking in. So that's excited, participating in your thing, coming down, cleaning up, and reflecting, journaling, whatever. And you can also just go to my Spotify and type in, how do you search for me? Uncustomary. Profile. Yeah, type in Uncustomary and then click on at the top where it says all. Instead of having it on all, don't click on audiobooks, playlists, or podcasts, just click profile, and then you can click on me. And then you'll click on, oh, it shows you my top listened to. That's actually not that embarrassing. Biffy Clyro, The Beatles, Super City, Z. Okay, she's on there. And Hilary Duff. You know what? I claim it. And then you go to public playlists. You scroll down a little bit and go to public playlists. And then, oh, it shows you everything I've saved. Okay, that's a lot. But you'll be able to tell the ones that I have created. Most of them have my name in them. It'll say like Uncustomary, or it'll be like a real theme. A couple of these are ones that I have started and I haven't finished, that I didn't mean to like put out into the world yet, or they're ones that I have saved from someone else that I am following. And it's very interesting that they're showing that. Like if I follow an album, they're showing that. But most of them are things that I've created. So you can look at that, and that'll be an easy way for you to, even if you use free Spotify, to find playlists that are themed, because that's all I do is make themed playlists. Okay, moving on to decorations. Okay, so vignettes and altars are like creating live mood boards, but I like to think of it as a window display. Have you ever seen just like a really pop-in window display? It's just like such a fun way to create with visual stuff. It's like this. This is a vignette, This is a visual mood board that's it's just a bunch of stuff arranged in a space. That's a vignette, or an altar, or a window display, whatever you want to call it, but it's just like a shelf or a flat space on a flat surface where you arrange your shit. That's a really nice way to inspire yourself and have like rolling options of things and create an intention that's not just 2-dimensional. But if you want a 2-dimensional thing, a mood board or a vision board in the more traditional sense is a really good way to kind of, I think a mood board is a better thing for, not better, but more of what we're going for here with our happy goal or your long-term goal. Even though it's a goal, and like vision boards are kind of what that is usually synonymous for, like a vision board, but more focused on a feeling, it's an energy, a vibe, like how you want to feel, because we're not really making a goal about checking something off, or making a goal about based on our fun and our feelings. So think about that. And you can obviously make it digitally on Pinterest, or you can print the images out and physically collage it. But either way, I do recommend making it the background on your phone. Also, when you're looking at decorations, don't forget the ceiling. A lot of people forget the ceiling, but you can hang like plastic balloons, you can hang lanterns, you can hang clouds, you can get garlands, anything tall you can hang from the ceiling. And people really miss that as an opportunity for inspiration. And it really, really helps you. And looking up, there's a whole, I talk about this in another masterclass, but it really elevates you spiritually, physically. Like there's proof for that. And I talk more about ambiance and rituals in my fabulous environments class, but we're going to keep going. Let's talk about accessories now. So by this, I mean everything else that didn't really fit into another category. And I'm thinking like silly, fun, and childlike, as well as practical. So it could be a special pen that you're using, to write your novel with, or a fun thermos that you use to take your coffee with you. And it could also be a trunk of Merriment treats that you store for when you're feeling uninspired. So I want you to think about booby trapping this trunk for joy. Open this in case of an emergency of being uninspired. Refill it when you're running low. A trip to the party store will do the trick. I mean, ideas for contents include confetti poppers, bouncy balls, slinkies, oversized sunglasses, slime, kazoos, silly straws, paddle balls, punch balloons, unicorn masks, pirate patches, knocker ball clackers, hacky sacks, temporary tattoos, rubber ducks because they're still hot, slap bracelets, yo-yos, Obviously, you can also tailor this to your specific goal. Like for learning how to dance, you might put in a like 80s sweatband or leg warmers or ribbon wands or those poi wands that light up and you can like make them dance, or jelly bracelets or a butterfly cape or a disco ball. And for strengthening exercises, you could add in a water bottle or workout shoes or socks or little weights or an exercise dice or a skip it. I was thinking about that for you, Candace. I think a skip it could be a good way to be able to jump. They still make those. For art, you could add in ephemera and envelopes and washi tape, markers, magazine clippings, stickers. For a dance party, you could add in pom-poms, boas, party hats, balloons, confetti, parachute, disco ball. I meant that for Melissa with her kids, grandkids. But this trunk could also double as rewards. Like for every level that you get to in your video game, you could get something new out of the trunk. But mostly I just want you to establish a ritual, something that gets you excited, a way to establish consistency that doesn't get dull. So for example, like I love having a morning routine, but I do something different when I do it every time. I don't like doing tapping or journaling at the same time in the same way every day. I have way too much Gemini in my chart for that. So I want to come back to the same space, the same container, with the same intention, but allow details to change a lot. And if you're like that, then be like that. So that might look like changing up your outfit every time, watching a different training video, changing the playlist that you're listening to every time, using different kinds of markers, changing up the medium that you're using, or just going to a different place to practice. Keep it fluid, keep it hot, keep it sexy. It's all hips and nips. So that's pretty much what I wanted to share with you guys today. I love talking about this stuff. I think this is really important in terms of our joy and having fun while we're here on this earth. Like it's really wonderful, and I really appreciate you making the time and commitment to come to a class and taking a chance on your joy. So we've been talking this week about how important it is, and I also hope that you've gotten something out of it, I really do. But we've been talking this week about how important it is to celebrate the unique parts of ourselves. And life is difficult, right? Like, stuff happens. I mean, this week I had my basement flood, my heat stop, the water be cold, like all that stuff. This kind of stuff happens, And that's not even a flash in the pan in terms of what's happening in the world. We didn't expect to be adults with all these responsibilities, right? And even after a decade of practice, 2 or even 6, it's still not that easy to grasp onto, if at all. We're all still just kids. And I know that you're all also a flavor of neurospicy like me, which makes it even more difficult for different people like you and me. We're stressed. We're stressed trying to be something that isn't us, something that isn't you. Like I say, we're all really good at trying. No one is saying that we're not trying. I'm not saying that, at least. We're out here trying our asses off. We're trying to make it work in relationships that feel passionless. We're trying to stick it out at our jobs that we dread. We're trying to look young when we're not. We're trying to make people care about things that they don't. We're trying to do the heavy lifting for 2 or a whole village. We're trying to keep our heads down in situations that we want to speak up in, but we don't because we prioritize our safety. We're trying very, very hard, and we're exhausted. We're also trying to fit into a world that wasn't made for us. It's like you're left-handed in a world that was made for right-handed scissors. Because you're weird, and you know it. It's more difficult and dangerous to use right-handed scissors when you're left-handed. People die, actually, because, well, if they're using that kind of machinery, maybe not from the scissors. But to have something so difficult and so dangerous for us, all these things at once, no wonder you're stressed. But what if somebody handed you a pair of scissors that fit your hands perfectly? And what if they told you that you weren't cutting things wrong? You weren't doing anything wrong. You weren't just given the right tools. What if you realized that you were already perfect just the way that you are? What if you had to stop trying? Didn't have to try anymore. You could just be. So, I'm introducing the Feel Good Troop. It's a monthly membership with theory and tangibility. It's giving you resources and accountability to feel happy, loved, and supported regardless of your stress, grief, and circumstances and diagnoses. It's a low-cost membership with the meat of the Merriment making method. It's got 27 self-guided masterclasses, guided group coaching, and Q&A, just like we're doing right now, and a new masterclass every quarter that's focused on mental health, and a mental health game plan through audio lessons every month with fun and practical ideas for how to take care of your mind and self-care. The masterclasses alone, if they were purchased individually a la carte, would add up to $2,370. But I'm really trying to rededicate myself to mental health and make this accessible to everybody. So this membership is only $39 a month, and you get access to all of it. Plus my Relieve Anxiety e-course, which is one of my top purchased e-courses, and that's $111, and you're getting that free. Plus, if you're one of the first 20 people to check out, you'll get the option of a 20-minute audio coaching call with me via Voxer, which is an app where we can talk via voice message as long as you want. 5 cents of every dollar of this membership is donated to NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. If you're currently a Merriment Makers member and you're wondering what the difference is, the mental health audio program and quarterly masterclasses are exclusive to the Feel Good Troop and can only be accessed inside that program. If you're not a Merriment Makers member, this is a very cost-effective way to start the Merriment making method. You can see what classes are available as part of your membership at the link that I'm going to put in the chat right now. And I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. I want to let you know that you are the first people that are hearing about this at all. It has not been announced via my newsletter or anywhere on social media yet. Besides my team, you are the only people to know about this. And full transparency, when you sign in, if you are to purchase this tonight, the site has about 70% of the promised resources on it right now because my life has been in a little bit of a tailspin because of the aforementioned basement flooding. But all of the classes will absolutely be uploaded by Monday. Do not worry, this is just an exclusive soft opening for you. Also, there is a very cool quiz on the site you can take to find out what Merriment archetype you are. And that's a very fun addition. And I'd love to know what archetype you are. So that is everything that I wanted to share with you. I hope that you will consider joining for the Feel Good Troop, whether that is in addition or instead of the Merriment Makers. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments here, whether you're here live or watching the replay. I really appreciate you signing up for this free challenge, and I hope that you enjoyed all of the free resources, the videos, the lessons, the worksheets, the live calls, and the bonuses. And if you want to work with me via coaching, or if you want to learn about any more of my products like my pep talks or my downloads or my book or my workbooks or anything like that, please reach out or just go to uncustomary.org. And if you enjoyed this training and you want to compensate me in an energetic money way, you can donate through the PayPal link here. I love you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. This is a free group, and you are entitled to stay here for the duration. There is also another curriculum in here called the Jumpstart Your Joy class, which you are free to take, and this class can also be taken over and over. All of the resources in here are here until the group isn't. So please feel free to engage with any of the other, as we have like 90 members right now from all over the world. And yeah, make the group your own. Please post any updates that you have. Melissa was sharing some fun things about her coffee cup and her grandkids, and that's really, really fun to see. That's the element that I think that a lot of us are missing is, the community aspect. So that's really wonderful to have. So you can have this in addition to everything else in your world. I love you. Thank you so much. I love you. Okay. You have to feel good to do good. Bye-bye.